Welcome back to Footnotes. I'm so excited to have you here. And Clella, you may have met Clella once or twice. They play, of course, Ililia Arendral here on Stories to D4. And Victoria, you're here with me as always. We are trapped in this little box to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and all things TTRPG. How you doing? Happy New Year, happy holidays, all those things. This session, we have so much to discuss today.
We do.
I have a lot of things of my own, but I want you to feel free to barrel over me if at any point something jumps out at you.
All right.
Or if you just want me to stop talking. That is also allowed here. Folks in chat, if you ever want me to just stop, please feel free. Girl boss it out. I will give myself a moment. Welcome, everyone. If you're new here, Footnotes is our Dungeons and Dragons tabletop RPG after show. We have our Elts campaign with a couple of fantastic heroes, and I think we can definitively call them heroes at this point. Small-time heroes.
Small-time heroes.
But heroes nonetheless. This week was the first time we had 5 5th-level PCs.
It was good.
That's good.
It's D&D again to me.
Yeah.
This is the point. The game is turned on. Like, I've loved our adventures. There's been some great stories, some wonderful RP work, but I can start throwing encounters that I think are a little bit more fun, at least for how our table likes to play.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about 5th level.
Okay, let's hear them.
Okay. I can only compare to what 5th levels I've been.
Sure.
And,
Let's start with Bard.
Bard.
That's a class you've played.
Okay, but let me explain my bard for a second, because I need to give full context. I was a bard that was a dwarf, so I had extra health, and I had armor on. I mean, I was pretty beefy health-wise and AC-wise at that point. And I felt much safer as a bard than I do as a wizard. And there's 2 reasons for that. And again, you guys are gonna be on a different side. But I love spontaneous casters. I know.
Okay.
But I love having pre-picked out what does my character know. And I know this is the same thing with buying spells and learning that. But then every day you got to be like, okay, well, what am I preparing? I knew every single day going in exactly what my character could and could not do. I knew whenever I leveled up, you have the ability to get new spells. And then as a bard, the spell swapping at certain levels. So you can, whenever you level up. So you've got some versatility, but I felt so much safer. I don't feel safe, and I'm playing an abjuration wizard. I have 15 extra health because of my ward.
I want to say you're.
Yeah, I was like, you're like a pretty, like, as beefy as a wizard can
You're
get.
in the middle of the party's durability threshold, effectively.
Yeah, because I've got 52 health effectively.
Yeah.
It's more health than I have.
Right.
More health than Gwynwyn has as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm there with Silas. I think Silas is at 70 and I'm at
It's Silas, Laurentius, and then
effectively 52. And so there's been some decisions that I've made as a player now, having this ward. 2 big moments, and some decisions I had to make along the way. First time I got to project my ward to somebody else to protect them, to keep Silas from going down potentially. That felt great. Because that was 15 damage off of a round of bad hits from a barbarian.
It's massive.
Yeah, it's a big... It is always preferable to save your own skin, but... but no, actually, it's really great to be able to project that ward out and protect other people, but it is 37 base health plus the ward of 15, and shielding heals it, so I always feel wasteful shielding before the ward has taken any damage. Because... I mean, I have and I will, and depending on what's coming at me, but... Oh, another thing about shield, by the way, if you cast shield when magic missiles are coming at you, they just don't hit you.
They just fail.
They just fail, which I thought was pretty interesting. Because I always thought you couldn't... Because I didn't have shield before. I've never had shield. So...
It's something to note is every Dungeon Master has their own style. Commonalities, I think, between the different sessions, scenarios, adventures that they end up running. I am a huge fan of magic missile on enemy spellcasters. I think I like the idea of arcane studied casters often starting with a similar progression of you learn prestidigitation, magic missile, maybe find familiar, some of those basic spells, and so you face off against magic missile pretty often.
Yeah, and I'd say too, just to get the bard versus wizard comparison out of the way, I played a very, very strong lore bard. I had fireballs and counter spells and, you know, eventually wish and meteor storm. Like, I did all kinds of crazy things with that character. And coming from playing a bard...
Hello, Kat. You've opened the door successfully. Come here, Jack.
I'll just...
Yeah.
But... yeah, no, I played a very damage-focused bard, so I'm playing a wizard now and trying to maybe do a little bit more of what the bard is meant to do, which is do some, like, crowd control and some, like, buffing and supporting magic.
I think your wizard play has been fantastic.
I do love the wizard, but I'm getting used to still preparing spells.
I would say you do a pretty good, like, amount of, like, buffing and that kind of stuff. Like, as a wizard, I certainly... more than I think I ever did as a wizard.
I'm trying to do it intentionally. That's really what the goal for me was, play something different than my bard. And my bard was, you know, shooting guns and fireballs. So I didn't take fireball whenever I leveled up. I have to admit,
You are a 5th level wizard without fireball.
I am a 5th level wizard without
Perhaps
fireball.
the first ever.
I'm going for a record. I'm just gonna put it that way.
You know,
I'm already petitioning Wizards of the Coast for that one.
Yeah, the Guinness Book of World Records for the first wizard ever to not take fireball.
Now, I actually just saw that Jen posted here in our chat with the forbidden emote.
Yeah.
And it's a great reminder now that I want to talk a little bit about the wonderful people who've been joining us here in chat, watching us on Twitch, on YouTube, and hanging out with us out there on Twitter. First off, we're almost at 300 on Twitter, which is very, very exciting. The channel's growing. We're going to bring, this year, as we mentioned last time on Footnotes, we're bringing you a lot more content. We've got upcoming one-shots, board game nights, and a couple other projects we're not quite ready to tell too much about yet. But in the spirit of that, we've also started we're going to start doing these drawings for our subscribers. And tonight we have our first ever subscriber reward. If you haven't heard yet what we're doing, each month we're going to be drawing a name out of our list of subscribers here on Twitch, as well as our patrons over on Patreon. And among that list, we're going to end up picking a single person. I'm going to go ahead and reach out to them, and we're going to talk a little bit so that I can generate them their own homebrew custom stat block. Maybe they're in their own game at home. They're a dungeon master who's excited to build out a dragon, but really wants a dragon who's focused on wizard spell casting, or perhaps, as we had suggestion before, a goblin fighting with a swordfish. Whatever it is that folks are interested in building, I'd love to sit down, talk for just a few minutes, get an idea of what they're looking for, and make them a little something. A stat block, some lore, and if they're interested and if it kind of fits with our campaign, maybe it'll even show up in the Elts campaign or one of our other one-shots. Can I say? Oh, Victoria,
I was just
please.
going to say, I'd love to do even just little fight clubs where we, you know, run
I'd
the
love
encounter too.
Fight club is
even if
always fun.
If it doesn't fit into our current level, to just have an opportunity to build a few characters out and just kind of run through that encounter or fighting that monster.
And the battlesphere is always filled with all sorts of strange creatures.
Kind of leaning that way, yeah.
Now, I have here, we just drew right at the start of the stream, who our first subscriber, what do we call? We don't have a name for these wonderful folks. Some of the many fantastic people who've been coming and helping us. The first draw, Victoria, do you want to read it off? What was the first name that came up?
I was going to call them subscribers of the month. So congratulations to ECATTX for being the first subscriber reward encounter / monster creation.
And this is super fantastic. ECAT has been with us since the very beginning. We're so happy to see that you kind of have shown up on this first stream. You've known Victoria a little longer than I have, but we're really excited. I would love to chat with you a little bit and figure out what we can make for you.
And if you're not watching right now, this again going forward, I'll send out a message to the winner after stream as well.
Since all of these are through both our Twitch and our Patreon, which means we're able to reach out on the platform that you've subscribed with.
So if you're on the Discord, I'll reach out on the Discord, but no matter what, on whatever platform you've joined us with, either Patreon or Twitch.
Well, we're on the topic of the wonderful folks who've been supporting Stories D4. I also want to give a special thanks to two wonderful folks, Pause61 and Chuck Does Stuff. Both of you gave out subs during our last stream, and I just wanted to thank you. We've got a lot of things coming up in the near future, and
I know.
you're a big part of that.
We're getting so close to that first.
We also
big
kind
goal.
of like Paws a little bit.
Yeah.
She's quite wonderful. Okay, with that, do you want to talk a little bit more about this week's session?
Well, I rambled about 5th level, but I know that we have a magus
This
here.
is your first session as 5th level.
I know.
Yeah, I actually didn't get to do the swinging my.
You haven't
sword
used extra
twice
attack yet.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because you were talking about wizard 5th level, and this is my confession, is I have not played a 5th level wizard before.
You have not technically played a 5th level wizard.
I believe I started with a 7th level wizard, so I guess I'm a fake fan, as you
Wow.
would say.
Yeah, you've never had to deal with the worst level of wizards. Like 1 through 3 is hard. It's not. Nothing is. I love 5th edition.
I've never known a non-fireball casting wizard. Well, until now.
I would ask, please, if you do know other people who have foregone the best spell in 5th edition.
Second best.
Whoa. Okay, we're gonna start a holy war. If you know a wizard who hasn't happened to pick Fireball by the time they're 5th level, let us know. We'd love to hear about that over on our Discord, or maybe in the comments if you're watching here on YouTube.
I even thought, like, maybe I'll buy it, but then I thought, no.
I would like to eventually learn Fireball. As
You're
a
going to
magus.
beat someone, take their book. You're going to take their lunch money, and in that lunch money, next to everything else is going to be Fireball.
Everyone thinks wizards are nerds, but if you're a wizard, one of the best things to be good at is taking out other wizards to steal their stuff.
Do you have proficiency in wedgies?
Not in this character build.
Okay.
Different
Now,
PC.
Clella, you received, for 5th level as a magus, you got 3 big boosts, if I remember correctly. You got extra attack. You also got an additional magus, a magus arcana, which is your selectable list of sub-features, similar to the warlock eldritch invocation. Do you know what the last thing is? Your last big buff?
Why don't you tell me?
You can weapon burst an additional time each time you rest. Now, weapon burst, that major core feature, kind of like a divine smite, a little lower damage, but you do it almost all the time.
Yeah. I mean, this was a fun thing to get, like, because I picked to upgrade my weapon burst at the same time, the same level I got to do it more often, so I'm really excited to start rolling d8s.
Yes, you're going to be rolling a d8.
So many d8s.
And that could be twice in one turn, so it's huge.
Yeah.
You look like you had something to say, though, Victoria.
Is this a long rest or short rest ability?
It is a long rest
Okay.
ability.
Okay.
I actually don't have any short rest abilities at the moment, so I am, though I will say, I am a notorious budgeter when it comes to spell slots, but I have lost all ability to budget and am just sort of spending all of my coins.
And you have 2nd level spell slots now.
I love them. I can't wait.
I ran out of spell slots on 3 characters in our last session. 4.
Ooh.
I almost ran it. I was down to 3 spell slots or less on 4 different characters in our last session.
What do you mean?
No, not this last one, but our last session for last campaign. I am not a spell slot
Oh,
budgeter.
I was like, what do you mean you had multiple characters?
I was like, who
During
are
our
you
last
running?
campaign, just to clarify, you ran some of our allied NPCs.
I ran allied NPCs and then I created a simulacrum of Stad 20th level bard from before. And having basically double -1 of your spell slots is amazing. Would recommend for every character who can to get the spell or cast wish to get it.
Or cast wish.
Well, I mean, if you're a 20th level player that can have wish on your spell list, you probably have wish on your spell list.
It's hard not to pick it.
Right, that's definitely an auto pick to me. But yeah, being from the opposite camp, I was actually really impressed that I ended last session with spell slots. Because I end almost every session with maybe 1 left. Maybe.
Hey, if you get to a long rest, that means all your spell slots you spent should have been spent.
Yep.
So
It's about surviving to the long
encourage your own habit.
rest. Right. My cantrips are so good, though.
They are. Gwynwyn's cantrips.
Yeah,
though.
Gwynwyn's cantrips are with the thing where you can add the extra 5 damage with the intelligence modifier. That's crazy. That's so good.
Basically gives her the access to the Warlock Invocation Agonizing Blast.
I love agonizing blast. I've never played a warlock.
Now, we have a couple weird things we were asked about on our Discord and some private messages that were going on with some curiosities. We've got a couple things here, and I'll let you guys decide where we go next on this. I have four big things that folks wanted to hear more about.
All right.
We had the egg.
The egg.
We had pine cones.
Pine cones.
We had Adon's backstory and the war elephant. And I'll let you guys decide kind of where we go, kind of along this journey of nonsense from the last 2 sessions.
I kind of want to talk about the pine cones.
Okay.
In part because last session, the pine cones are one of those things. I think I've had like Elle viscerally react to very few things. Like,
Yes.
Like an intense reaction, very single, like very.
Very confusing. What do you got?
Um,
You're so filled with secrets.
That's not true. I'm an open book, except for when it comes to Mr. Book.
Yeah, Mr. Book is your journal, Mr. Book, is a closed book.
Yes. I love the pine cones. They're so fun. And I was so excited for them to like come. I was like, I cannot wait for these to come up later in the campaign. In some form or fashion. I know it's not going to be the way I expect. But I did in character chunk mine into the woods, never to be seen again.
Do we want to talk about that?
Sure.
Huh?
How much can we say?
I think we can say.
Okay.
I'm happy to. I think we revealed what it was.
I can say the very simplified version of
Okay,
this.
cool.
Sure.
Now,
I'll let you give the.
Clella, as a Lilier, believes that her pine cone, which was just as a reminder for session, I want to say 3.
I think so.
Your pine cone was a white creature with many, many heads that were serpent-like heads. And now I believe you think this is a creature known as the False Hydra, which at one point grievously wounded a member of Elle's family.
Yes.
Okay, and so Elle believes that something is going to come and get her, or maybe hurt her family, or in some way bad things are coming from this monster, the False Hydra.
That was a moment where 3 of the players for sure reacted very viscerally to the pine cone.
Yes.
We were
That was the session
terrified.
where I had my table cry.
Yeah, we were terrified. One of the many sessions we cried.
And I think Elle's, if I recall, Elle's specific reaction was because I'm doing my own thing and this is this is a piece of the past.
Yeah.
And I do not want the past to continue haunting me. I want my own future.
42 years?
It's been over
42.
40 years. It's been 40 years. It's fine. It's dead. It was handled last campaign.
Oh, it wasn't.
The White Hydra, on the other hand.
Oh, okay. But so that was your pine cone. We also have, this kind of ties into one of the other topics, I suppose. Maybe. The egg. Oh my goodness.
I got an orange lizard, eyes closed, short tail, yellow underbelly, horned nose, pine cone from the diviner.
I know it's not Sandshrew, but that's what I've been picturing.
We have not canonically crossed off the possibility of it being a sand shrew.
Well, we also don't know what it is.
You have to walk enough steps and it will hatch.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so keeping our wonderful audience tied in, with that, you receive that strange pine cone carved into some small orange lizard, big nose, little tail. Any thoughts? You've got an egg that you believe the egg is that creature.
I have a gut feeling that doesn't feel good. Because here's the thing, right? I as a player have more information than I as is Meanie. And I as a player know what Elle's was, and I know what Thorn's was. I didn't like what I saw there, so I as a player, I'm like, well, oh no.
Does Clella know what Thorn? Does Clella think? Do you think you know what Thorn's is?
I think I know what Thorn's is.
Interesting.
I mean, I also think, but I'm not as confident as you are about it.
I am 85% confident.
Interesting. I haven't the faintest.
But okay, me as a player got bad feelings from their pine cones, and so for me it's like, okay, is it just across the board bad, or is there some good, some bad? Like, I don't know. Oh, that would have been a great spell to cast.
What spell would that be?
It would have been augury whenever we got the
So
egg.
you can
and just
still
said,
cast it.
No, it would have been, should we take this egg with us?
Well, you could still do. Should I smash this on the ground? Should I cook it and eat it? It's still a question you can ask.
Okay, but the
I think it's worth taking notes. Augury on the egg.
I mean, the fates could be like, it would taste good. Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be like, is it a good idea? Right? It's very much like, is this a good or bad course of action? And again, augury is such an interesting spell I could get into. But No, I'm kind of worried about it. I don't know what the creature is. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. And I don't know what to do with the egg to hatch it. So, and then also, do we want to hatch it? I know literally nothing. So I'm kind of just up in the air with this. And
I'm excited. I'm excited to see where is Meanie and the egg, where their journey goes.
Right. I was joking, and it turns out there's not a whole lot of overlap between Ranger and Wizard, but there were some jokes about, like, could I be a Beastmaster Wizard? The answer is no.
Well, I will say this, and this is something I think is very important to mention to your players. Just the way that we sometimes will have homebrew monsters and items, there are also things that are slightly outside the base game that we often will do. It is possible, the same way you could have an allied NPC, for you to have an allied creature.
Yeah.
You'd need to do some serious training,
And it would be
unless it was intelligent.
It's also a literal baby.
It's an egg.
You could get like
His
a
egg.
Bjorn thing.
Not again.
Not again.
Not 2 campaigns in a row.
And now, Amanda, as
Curse.
Gwynwyn, had a wolf.
Yeah, a big wolf.
Big old wolf. Well, it's hard to tell scale, it's a pine cone.
And it's a big wolf. You can tell.
You can tell it's a big...
The vibes.
The vibes.
The
The
vibes.
vibes.
I forgot the vibes. Also, vibes could be an emote, just saying.
Yeah.
And do you remember what Silas's was?
I actually don't.
I
That's
didn't
the
write-
one I don't remember.
Here's the thing. I didn't write down... And the other thing was, I didn't remember what Amanda's was. Amanda was so gracious as to tell me right before we walked in and found out about the wolf. So, I did not know. And I was a very good player. I didn't write down anybody else's pine cone.
Oh, I did.
Ecat
My
is
notes
here in
did.
chat, and so let's just go ahead and say congratulations on being the winner of the first drawing. I'm excited. I'll message you. We'll talk a little bit about that custom homebrew monster, and we'll see where it ends up.
See if he ends up throwing it at us. Because you guys... The scary thing is, you all know we're level 5 right now.
Oh, don't worry about what level my party is.
Right. But, like, there's this possibility that we could be opening ourselves as players up to a big old world of hurt from people helping build monsters as well.
Someone just wants a custom Tiamat block.
Yeah.
Hey, there is a Tiamat stat block, and it's not sufficient, in my opinion.
Oh, remember that fight?
Cursed us.
Yeah.
Talking a little bit more... Oh! So we've got here... We also wanted to talk about Adon's backstory and the war elephant. Clella has messaged me quite a bit since Friday about the war elephant.
I would like. I know it would be a fiscally irresponsible decision to attempt to keep a war elephant.
It would be freedomly irresponsible to keep the war elephant.
It would be
Stealing from the military, the captain of the Eastern Guard.
I don't believe I have diplomatic immunity that extends that far.
Not quite.
Or any at all. Truly.
You could become a ward of the state, where they'll keep you locked up in a tower and use you as bargaining capital.
We did say we wanted a prison break arc. I mean,
I'm sorry.
Willingly going to prison is a wild character arc.
It's gonna be like all those
we need
shows
an insider.
where it all goes wrong, but then at the end it's like, oh yeah, I intended to break my neck and get locked in maximum security.
Yeah,
Jeez.
totally. Purposely, this was part of the master plan.
And so this little critter, this war elephant,
Little.
you have freed.
Show
Yeah, you
war
want to grab?
elephant?
Go ahead and grab it. So this
We
war
have two
elephant.
elephants here.
Yes,
For scale.
for scale. The war elephant was at some point taken from the Elt's guard and is under control of the nilbog, one of the weirdest creatures I think you've faced
That's
this
a weird
campaign.
one.
I know, as an aside, our campaign got a lot froggier this last session.
I suppose
No.
you're right.
Have we had bullywogs in every campaign?
Well, I think that's the case. Did we ever had it in the Pathfinder one we did?
Helps.
I'm not going to keep doing that.
No, we didn't. We didn't.
No, but I did have planned for devil bullywugs, which was the fire swamps.
We walked
You never got
semi towards a swamp in that campaign, so
Yeah.
I feel like frogs were implied.
Yeah, frogs are implied.
The implied frogs. Silas
Ecat
Jr.
said Silas Jr. We'll talk a little bit after. We'll talk over the next week or so. I hope to have the actual
Maybe
stat
we
block
have to
done.
Keep him.
We can't name this elephant Silas Jr.
Why not? We're gonna name it Silas
That's
Senior?
offensive.
Silas Senior? Like,
No, we cannot name it. Jake, I'm sorry if you're listening.
Now it's kind of funny to think. I talked with Jake. Was it weird to see an elephant? And the idea is really. I mean, we've seen gorillas. We've seen
me. Not
That was
her.
you. We've seen apes. We've seen various kinds of apes, monkeys. There are things related to us. This is just a big ol' elephant. I'm sure the Loxodon isn't too freaked out by it.
I mean, do you ask Tabaxi if it's weird to see a lion?
Yeah.
Or a house cat?
I would
or a house cat.
absolutely ask that question if I
And
met a Tabaxi.
Is like an Aarakocra, like, is it weird to see, like,
It's not
or an owlin and a regular owl? I don't know, man. It seems like you're kind of cutting some lines close if you start to get weird about the Loxodon.
Now, ECAT just asked why it sounded like Kermit. So we had a Bullywug Knight, which is a frog person. That's what a Bullywug is. From the Feywild.
And,
not a material creature.
Why not Kermit?
Yes. So this approximately 5.5 foot tall, dressed in a blue puffy shirt with little white frills poofing out, metal armor, and a unsharpened halberd.
And a paladin, I guess.
Yes, Foland is a Knight of the Primrose, one of the lesser courts of the Feywild.
The Kermit thing. You have to commit to the bit.
Oh no, that pun hurts me.
Sorry, that was the spirit of Jake possessing
I'm now
me.
blue
It's a
instead of
mystery.
green.
Well, okay. Listen, we've talked
Not
about character
easy.
goals, and a new character goal is not just, nope, can't say that, secret goal.
So the Feywild, the Feywild is actually another plane. If you're not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, planes are kind of like dimensions. You're able to travel between them using special forms of magic, but you can't typically walk or take a vehicle to get between them. And so in the case of the Feywild, it is an echo plane. It's very similar to the world where our players live. There are islands in the same place as the islands you're familiar with, but the Feywild is overgrown with lush life. It's the reflection of life on the material plane.
And cute stuff.
Not a lot of huge cities there.
And planes like Feywild and then it's Shadowfell,
Yes.
the opposite of the Feywild.
Shadowfell is the land of undead. Feywild is the land of the fairies.
Instead of them being kind of like separate individual things out there that you have to like do magic to get to, they kind of bump into each other a little bit. So like there's times and ways
They have
which
touch points.
Yeah, you
And-
can kind of like cross barriers.
For the Feywild, my players are familiar with something called Feygrass, a special sort of plant. It can be anything. It can be literal grass, it can be a bush or a great tree that allows you to travel from the material plane to the Feywild. And so, somewhere in the bulwark, there is a way to get to the Feywild.
Which I need to go there so that I can assume one of my 2 master plans.
Is it to become a leaf-wearing Fey woman?
Something about the Pumpkin King, you know. Now that's the wrong universe, but
I'm down with either of these plans.
yeah,
any plans for
go
the
become
universe.
some evil ruler of the Feywild.
I'm Jack O'Lantern. But yeah, so Foland is going to be accompanying you while you figure out what's going on here, at least for a little bit longer, as you have rescued his friend, and so now he should help you with whatever's making some of the creatures of the bulwark go mad.
Right, which wasn't the nilbog.
Right, so the nilbog itself is a magical creature, was causing the nearby creatures to start marching around, but you saw earlier that deer and those wolves seem to be under some sort of additional... Some people speculate a poison or a disease, but you're not quite certain.
Because there was both that the wolves were kind of listening to him, but then also that the wolves were crazy.
The wolves were double dipping in the mad end of the pool.
Yeah.
They failed some saves.
They failed several saves. Last session was quite a lot.
It was fun. It was a really fun session.
I'm excited for the part 2. We've got lots of strange encounters that are going to be happening here in the near future, especially if my players dip into another plane at 5th level.
I
I've
have
never
some
been...
murder to do, so
Yes. Now, there was a very strong reaction by some of my party when Joya Teal soldiers showed up. They are essentially evil knights. Evil elves that served a man who killed the god of elves.
Yep.
Attempting to usurp the throne and become a mad ruler.
And then we killed a god.
Yes, so
we did kill that god.
without delving too much into previous campaigns, essentially they're kind of a known entity that these people who are just a remnant of a group that's long since been defeated, their king, their god slain, their queen lost and on the run. At this point, they're really just soldiers without a cause. And Elle, you had a bone to pick with them.
they are responsible for a genocide.
They are responsible for the death of
And-
a quarter of the elves.
Yeah, and so like, sometimes you have to clean up some of the mess left over, and and if you have to swing a sword in a more lethal way to do it, then so be it.
They were the enemy for 50 years.
They were,
Yeah.
I think, one of the best examples of how do you have an enemy that you can kill without any guilt or sort of, am I murder hoboing?
We joked about, I think 3 footnotes ago, we talked that there was a session where we played Bad Reputation while the party was cutting through enemies.
Yep.
It was with the Joy of Teal. It was like, oh, you're trying to
Right.
slay a righteous god of poetry and beauty. You're the villains.
You're the villains.
You're the baddies.
Yeah, and then replace him with the god who, sacrificed a quarter
God
of
of
the
tyranny, strife, and
Yeah.
a couple other things.
That
Great.
dude.
So if you're used to the regular Forgotten Realms kind of settings and these gods' names, we're all like, oh, who's the god of the elves? Oh, Sahadin Moonbow or Salune, that's the god of the elves. That would be why, because Coralon, the
Coralon's
regular
dead.
one, is dead. So our setting
F's in the chat.
F's in the chat for Coralon.
Girl bosses in the chat for Coralon.
Coralon was a girl boss.
Orlon would approve.
So yeah, it's one of those.
Thank you, Chubas.
Thank you for the F. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, but then I, as a player, again, remember we're gonna have a hard time with that fight. I think if they are, but I think that
I
they are.
do remember fighting them.
Because they were
Yeah.
soldiers.
No, this
are-
is a trio of Joy of Teal Hell Knights.
Yeah.
And those guys are really scary and big.
I had a moment where I went like, I know this is a horrible idea. Anyone who is cocky enough to roam around in Joy Tail armor freely has to have some form of skill to back that up. Like
They're traveling in a group.
Right. there's
but
three of them.
still, like, there's 3 of them, and I went, but like, it's one of those things where you go like, does my character care?
Your mothers fought them in a war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Clella, I think we're going to be doing this over the next couple of footnotes as we have each of our friends come join us. We talked about it with Connor already, but do you want to talk to Clella about the campaign so far? Just your general thoughts?
Yeah, so I wanted to do this throughout January and to kind of ask everybody who shows up, hey, over 2021, we from September through December, what was your favorite part? What did you, or kind of like, as the campaign has progressed, what have you been liking? What's been standing out to you?
I mean, this has been just a really fun, like, we had a blast in our previous campaign. I think everyone knows that by us alluding to it. But this has just been really fun. I really enjoyed getting back to the lower levels of D&D, learning a new class completely, getting to try a very different position within a party, things like that. I've really loved the city of Eltz. We traveled so much previously, and feeling like we're getting to know a city. We have kind of usual places we go to. We have a base again, which is awesome. You said favorite moment, and I will pick one very selfishly, which is I loved getting to do the duel.
Oh, no.
When I've had like friends or family be like, what's like a 5-minute thing I could watch to know like what you're playing in the campaign, that's what I point them to, because it was just so much fun. I think a good demonstration of the mage's class and what it's all about in many ways.
We talked about what the Magus was a long time ago. Back, actually, before this campaign, before Stories to D4, we talked about Magus and what the core identity was. And a big part of that is, one example is being a mage slayer, being a master of dueling. You're very hard in a one-on-one fight in a closed space.
Which is really fun coming from a character that's very designed to, if you get near me, I'm going to die. But if you can't get near me, I will destroy you. That kind of thing.
Don't you touch me, I will cry.
Yeah.
Exactly. And agreed, Kat, the voices the DM makes are great.
Yeah,
So.
it's that great immersion into a character, because I've DM'd. It's hard. We both DM'd before, and it's really
Yes.
hard to...
Fantastically. I'm going to call them both out on this.
I'm gonna say it though. Coming from my experiences of trying to run all these NPCs, and maybe you have this conversation where there's more than one, differentiating in conversations where you may be talking to yourself is so difficult to keep the characters straight, to keep voices straight, and to do voices at all. So it's been just great.
I cheat. I make every little hack I can to make voices more distinct. I'm not a professional voice actor. I'm not a voice actor at all.
Yeah.
I do some voices with my Dungeons and Dragons friends, and the way that I work on it often ends up being having internal rules. Like, to give an example, we've seen a Furbolg this campaign, which my players, I think 4 of them instantly recognized as a Furbolg, as they're relatively rare, and I had a very particular voice with it.
Yeah.
Apparently we've had a lot of very Canadian dad-style halflings.
Yes, we have definitely had either Midwest to Canada kind of range, like just like a little strip of land.
If I want ranch, I would go to a halfling, is all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so having these sorts of shorthands can be really useful. I've got Grenborn Dragonborn males have a voice.
They do have a voice.
And so, and occasionally when you don't want to use that sort of codified, you pick an accent that you happen to be able to do and assign it in a general area for your convenience. Having a voice that you find iconic, a person that you can think of, and talking that way is really helpful. Foland and the Kermit the Frog voice is obviously more of a joke, fun. It's the Feywild, let's get silly and light.
This is a frog with a spear.
But there are different... Sometimes there'll be a villain who, in a game or a show, who I just think is so captivating, and I'll just watch and I'll really listen to their voice, and they'll go, you know what? I know this guy is a assassin in the future, in whatever medium I'm in, but they make an excellent necromancer.
Yeah. I think it'd be really fun to kind of go a little bit deeper into that at some point too, because one of the big things I want to talk about is role playing. That the different levels of kind of role playing your character, the I versus my character kind of statements and voices. For me, what I do is always like what's it called? The way you speak, the speech patterns,
Like intonation, tone,
speech pattern, word choice.
Posture, even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm trying to play a different character, what I'll do to change my language, because I'm not as big on the voices myself. They don't really come out. So
I think as Meanie becomes more solid each session.
Yeah.
There's some very clear separation between you and Ismini, because Ismini's more outside of who you are.
Yeah, I definitely would say my first PC, and this is a great thing, I think, I'm glad that I did it this way, but my first PC was just me dialed up to 11 in a lot of ways, or 12 or 13 in certain situations. But this was somebody that I just cranked it all the way up. It took everything that I think would be fun, or everything that I would want to say or do, and just kind of cranked that dial up all the way. And this is a character that's values don't align with my personal values, so it's a little bit different.
Trying to bribe everyone.
Well,
not something Victoria is famous for.
I'm not famous for bribing people because you don't get caught. That's the whole point.
You don't carry around a bunch of gold with you.
I don't carry around gold, and I don't have land to parcel out.
Now, I'm curious. Do you think either of you would ever like to duel another player?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh wow, that was much easier than I had expected. And what's great is one day I'll have to break out. There is one other dueling system we haven't encountered yet. Now, it does require both parties to be a spellcaster.
Fight me, Thorn.
We'll talk a little bit more about that, perhaps when one of our players gets into a fight with Thorn, or perhaps if you ever head over to one of the many wizard towers of our campaign.
We should break into a wizard tower. We haven't done
You
that yet.
currently are looking for
I'm
one.
planning to break into a wizard tower.
You want to find where Zarathal lives, correct?
Not all wizards live in towers. Some live in basements.
Okay.
Or aspire to.
Okay.
With many rugs.
I am being drugged by everyone.
Ismini, master of rugs.
Listen. I have 2 life goals. You already know one of them is Ismini. You think it's a joke, but it's not.
The basement?
No.
The labyrinth?
No, just tell.
Oh, just becoming a lich.
Oh, okay.
Amazing.
That was one of my 2 options.
I did expect Ismini to take Animate Dead at 5th level, and you did not.
There were a few reasons for it.
Spooky, scary skeletons.
One of them being that Fear and Counterspell were the 2 spells that I wanted top of the list. I'd like to purchase Animate Dead or learn it in general because
just kill Zarathal.
Does he have it in his spell?
Zarathal's a necromancer.
Yeah. Okay, listen. Remember that I had a necromancer wizard that I was so excited about, and then we came into this campaign and I played an abjuration wizard.
I've actually been a big
Play
fan.
a necromancer.
You're also allowed to have multiple schools that you focus on. I think it's really...
Your necromancy summons are like the only benefit you get a little bit better whenever you're necromancy.
I will say, I think there's an active detriment to players that can happen when they pick a subclass and they stop reading the other subclasses. Now, obviously, you don't just get their features.
Right. Yeah.
But you playing an abjuration wizard... now, I'm not saying you don't do this. I'm saying as a general Dungeons & Dragons, the community can have this, where you can look at a subclass you aren't playing and think, what do you like about it? And go and take some of that maybe into your role-playing, maybe into the mechanics. Maybe you're not playing a Battle Master fighter, but you want to learn a little bit more about improving your fighting style, so you train more and more with maybe some masters. Maybe you talk to your DM. I'm a big proponent of homebrew. You all know that.
My primary focus as Ismini... Oh, I healed my ward last session. My primary focus as Ismini is to do Abjuration Magic, followed by Necromancy is my second focus. I try to have a primary and secondary goal when building my character for mechanics-wise what I want to do. And I think that kind of helps stay out of that lock. Because again, I played a lore bard, and people would say, oh yeah, your lore bard's like the closest you get to wizard really with bards, so there's certain things you'd expect to do. And I tried to say, yeah, sure, but I also want a pistol. So...
Yes, you did have a firearm last time.
It's one of those...
Which still exists, as you saw. You actually did get to see a firearm in use last session.
That's terrifying. Guns are scary, by the way. But it's one of those character building things and going not just at the building stage, but as you level up, you're still building the character, really, because you're adding new spells and abilities. So one of those things to keep in mind.
I do something almost similar, but I focus more on the...
Mitski songs.
Well, Mitski songs always. But secondly, what do I see this character doing in combat, like in the cinematic mode of combat? Like, what are they doing? And so, like, for one, it was like, wizard pumping up rope trick and, staying far away and doing grandiose spells and AoEs. But with Owl, I was like, I know, move fast.
Yeah.
Be everywhere at once and be able to do things out of combat a little sneakier was kind of a goal of mine. So
if I could give you a little bit of homework, and maybe even to the folks there at home, I believe there's a spell, now you don't have access to it for a while longer, that I think you need to read called A Charterlon's Stride. And I think this is something that you're very much going to want to take a look at.
I almost took it.
Victoria and I have had some discussions about it, but it's a movement and damage-based spell that I think will be very interesting for the way that the Magus plays.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of time left. We got a little bit, so we're not in too much of a rush. I want to say real quick, as you can see below, we're getting very close to our Battlesphere one-shot. Some of our players have actually finalized their what their player characters would be if they're when they get to play in the Battlesphere one-shot. As well as some people are getting really excited. They're asking questions about the different bosses they'll be fighting. Victoria knows that I've been sitting with my hands covered in paint, painting up a bunch of miniatures for future sessions. And so the Battlesphere one-shot is going to be very soon. I'm hoping once we've hit this, once we've hit 25 subscribers, we're going to be announcing a date, hopefully in the very near future. And I've got some really big plans coming. Also, something I wanted to mention, Connor's actually going to be helping out with some special terrain that you'll be seeing make its appearance during that one-shot.
I'm so excited. Anytime there's some big terrain build, it's just like, ooh.
Oh, absolutely. Can you grab the column?
Yeah.
Because I was so surprised by some of the players' reactions to... This is something I picked up, and I couldn't find who made this. I did a little bit of research. We're going to check again and try to have more information next time. But this is a simple 3D printed column. I got it for around $5, maybe $3 or $5 at a convention Victoria and I went to quite a long time ago. But when we grabbed this, I just thought it was a little bit neat. Maybe it would be something that we'd throw into a dwarven ruins at some point. But putting this on the battle map immediately gave so much depth to the combat, so many options. Because I saw this and immediately went, someone could Misty Step on top of this.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
With all terrain, you're going to see these pieces more than once. They are... Yeah, you Misty Stepped on top of the elephant in the case of this session. But having this singular piece of terrain as a dungeon master, which I could make this out of I could make a rectangle or a cylinder out of cardboard and be fine.
You could do foam carving, just some styrofoam.
Plastic art is incredibly cheap, though probably a little too long for this sort of thing. But by having a simple piece like this, the players were all instantly... something interesting was going on. The fight was pretty neat. It gave me as a DM some combat options. I had an idea that I was going to try to knock this over using the elephant if the players got close. And similarly, you can also use it in different ways. I can lay this down and make a huge piece of difficult terrain. This is about 5 to 10 feet tall, depending on how you're going to do your scaling. And so if you play on a battle map, you don't need 3D pieces, but having some sort of... Or you don't have 3D printed objects, but having some sort of physical component is really useful. We've used things like plastic tubs. If you have a Coca-Cola bottle, makes an excellent, massive elven tree I can't walk through it.
Right. There's been we play Warhammer, and there's times where we've used tissue boxes and the inside of like the inserts for little toolbox separator for like different types of screws.
We've flipped over all of our dice trays to make small it's like mesas. It's been weird. It's been weird little things.
There's a lot that you can do without having, the gorgeous pieces of terrain. You don't have to have that. We also before just did a battle map where we used different color dry erase or wet erase markers and just drew out, okay, like the blue is going to be where the river is. These right here in this shape are going to be bushes or trees.
ECAT mentioned that he has a 3D printer and we should talk, and I got some STL files that I've been looking into online printing for, so maybe we'll have a discussion about that.
I'm scared.
But terrain is, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, grab objects around your house that are relatively small, things that would fit into a 4x4 inch square on your, whatever you're using for your battle mat. We use a Wizards of the Coast product that is just a 1-inch grid. And it's grasslands on one side, stone on the other. But they also, Dwarven Forge has fancier ones that have a metal sheet on the inside, which we use with our Dwarven Forge.
You drew one for us a few times.
I've drawn them on pieces of paper before. Also, we're just after the holidays. If you happen to have any wrapping paper lying around, a lot of wrapping paper will actually have a grid pattern on it. And
They're 1-inch grids.
A lot of players will use those 1-inch grids on the back of wrapping paper, put some sort of paperweight on each of the 4 corners. Maybe it's your dice tray overlaying on one of the corners, and you've got yourself a battle map. I love, as you've seen so far, I'm a huge proponent of miniatures. I love terrain. We've been painting up a storm. In the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping to bring you more and more exciting things on stories. We've got about 25 miniatures that have been painted in the last 2 or so weeks.
I have got stains on my nails from painting today.
I guess, can I say what we've been painting up?
Yeah.
We actually spent today painting some Star Wars miniatures from the Star Wars Legion line of wargaming minis. If you're interested in all in Star Wars, either in a role-playing or maybe in a wargaming sense, let us know in the Twitch chat or in the comments, because maybe we could see it here on Stories sometime.
Or join us on Discord.
Yeah.
Or come talk to us on Discord. I love talking about it.
I want to put some pictures of the minis in the Stories chat.
Yes, we should find a way to we should get a little white box so we can take pretty pictures of all of the miniatures. Maybe get some opinions on how we'll base them up.
Yeah, because I think that I'm starting to lean in a certain direction and I'll need to be talked out of it.
Okay. I'm very excited to hear it. Do we have anything else with this session we wanted to talk about, y'all? We could still do this if you're interested.
Best boy?
Do we want to talk about Adon?
Okay.
Sophia told you a little bit about his backstory.
I'm satisfied, and this is a weird thing to say, but I'm satisfied with, we find out that Adon has some sort of black mark against him from a specific family, and then in the same session, 20 minutes later, we find out what it is. I understand the set up something, bring it back later, and I like that, but sometimes it's nice to also just have that moment of, oh, what's going on? Oh, okay, that's what's going on. That confusion and then immediate, answer.
I wasn't
felt
sure.
really nice.
I wasn't sure when it was going to come up. I was like, I'm going to have Sophia talk with you. I actually had Sophia, I intended on having her actually get a different kind of sort of piece of information from y'all. Mm-hmm. But I have to review the session to find out exactly how it came up.
We were talking about just how Miles is doing, really.
Yeah.
And we were asking why she doesn't live in the richer neighborhood.
Yes.
That's why.
Why she's no longer in the north end with where the Rolemnon house used to be.
Yeah.
And so because of that, you kind of get to learn a little bit about Adon and how Adon took on a job with Miles for a copper piece. And so the guards aren't a huge fan of him. Probably steer clear, as one of the High Lords is not a fan.
Well, then we shall replace the High Lord.
Could have something to do with the defiant smiles not being able to keep folks.
That is actually kind of answered a lot of my questions right there very quickly and has only made me love the smiles more.
Definitely. I mean, there's always that moment of like, what if we find out in like 5 sessions
Right,
that
that
Brask
he's-
actually like cheats you of like all your money and you just didn't know? Like,
No, I thought it was going to be like, okay, I'm like, either Adon did something very good boy, which we learned, or very bad boy, or like absolutely
dark past.
or absolutely nothing. Like those are the only 3 options. It can only be extraordinarily extreme, extraordinarily not, or like he accidentally cut somebody off in a line. So it couldn't be anything else, and I'm so glad that we found out that Adon's good.
Do you want an elephant fight?
I win.
Yeah, you're both. I can't swing my sword from that far away.
Yep. So I want the elephant fight.
Adon is going to be, depending on how the party reacts, Adon could become a major part of the story,
Yes.
or Adon could be sort of more of this background character.
No.
No. Oh, Victoria has decided on that one. Clella, do you have a rebuttal?
I'm building up a sort of tolerance level, yes, for the voice, so that he can be all the time, everywhere.
Oh, I really appreciate you putting that effort in so that I can be here and being my true self. Elle, I really appreciate your willingness to work with me on this.
Thanks for the exposure therapy.
just do calls like, okay, like how you doing? What you have for lunch? But as
Just
a dog.
re-listen to those parts of that.
All right, and now it's going to be our weekly meeting. Let's do our preparations for the session. Did you get the pizza? You didn't get the pizza? It's all right. We'll have... Victoria, do you mind cooking dinner then this time? No, but so Adon, very silly voice, very silly man, but he's earnest. That was one of the big words going for him.
He is so good. He protected a child, and now people don't like him because he protected a child.
Well, he pissed off the Angari spice.
But they're
spice company.
terrible, so...
They're
Yeah.
horrible, and I'm gonna replace them.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
in favor of this. I mean, we have disliked them and we're 2 for 2 with
2 for
them.
2. Turns
Yes, this
out.
is one of the few Eltsians that you knew about in previous
Right.
campaigns.
Yeah.
Is that interesting thing of, and this is what I was going to say earlier, is that we've got this campaign now set in a setting that we know 40 years after we know. So there's so much that we know about, and it's always trying to
It's
find.
been so long.
It's trying to find that balance too, you know, of like. Don't info dump everything, but we want you to know because it's exciting stuff like, oh my gosh, we recognize it. Because the Angaris, I was trying to remember their names because they have a blood oath against my last character.
Oh, Gammon's a real jerk.
Yeah.
Gammon's a real jerk.
And you have the name like Gammon, you have to be.
Now, I'm curious if anyone in chat knows, Gammon actually was sort of a hero. I stole the name Gammon from a game that I played with a couple of our friends. And so, Gammon, not always a villain's name, but in this case, very likely a villain.
Sounds like Ganon to me.
It does sound quite...
I,
it is.
my brain went Ganon.
It's a little too Ganon adjacent.
Yeah, it's a little Ganon. I don't know what game you're talking about, so. But
Well, Gammon is a character from World of Warcraft.
oh, there we go. That's fine.
Yes, I actually I do happily take inspiration sometimes. Sometimes direct names, but generally more inspired names from board games, video games, all sorts of media, because there's a lot of folks. There's a lot of folks out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of names, combinations of names. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Top 100 baby names in Croatia of 2007, like that kind
Excellent.
of Googling.
I crack open like old college textbooks to find names
Yeah.
all the time.
Every dragon in my setting has Latin root words in its name, just kind of shoved in there wherever I feel about it.
Yeah, it's fun. Just the naming stuff is you only get to name a couple things in your life, and that's why DMing is great, and being a player is great.
I have one last thing for the night.
Ooh.
We had a nilbog special creature able
Yes.
to prevent damage, make people who try to damage it instead take their turn praising the nilbog, admiring its fine features, dignified nose, and oily hair.
And pink robe.
And pink robe. And a very strange staff that allows them to nullify attacks and heal themselves. But this one in particular, Sicknarf, one thing about nilbogs nilbogs, such as Signarf, are just goblins backwards. They're under some sort of curse or spell that creates nilbogism. Francis, as the goblin we will know, is actually where we're going to be starting off this week. Session 18, we're going to get to know this little goblin, see what he's like. Victoria, you don't seem very amused by Francis.
Nope, it's a reference from Campaign 1.
Steve?
Okay,
Oh no.
yeah.
We have opinions about goblins?
I love goblins. I love them. I want to adopt all of the goblins.
Yes, you've actually, this campaign, unlike everything I've run previously, we've actually been pretty shy on goblins and kobolds.
I love goblins.
And there actually is a reason for that. The location you're in, they're not exactly the most tolerated folks.
There's been one goblin, and his name was
Bulls.
Bowls.
Bullsack.
Bowlsack.
Yes, we'll talk about Bulls more. I know it's E-Cat's one of their favorite characters here.
Love it.
Anything else for you before we sign off for the night, y'all?
Join our Discord.
Join our Discord.
If you aren't
Come
following
hang out
us
with
on-
us.
If you aren't following us on Twitter, please do.
Victoria and I are streaming Gloomhaven and other video games over on my channel, which the information's all in our Discord. We talk about it there. And hey, we'll see you this Friday.
Oh, I have one more thing to add.
Yes.
I'm gonna spice up the soup a little bit. So we've got that goal right now to get to the battle sphere. I want to let everybody know that once we hit the goal for the battle sphere, we also unlock another tier 1 emote.
We do.
So that is a 2-for-1 right there. And
Twofer.
yeah,
Twofers, man.
twofers. So I have some personal ideas on what the next emote should be.
Is there a person?
Yes,
Who's the person?
Adon.
You think an Adon emote for our tier 2 subs?
Tier 1 subs.
Tier 1? Oh, the tier 1 slot.
Tier 1 slot
That's
will be opening
even
up.
better.
And that's the thing is everybody who's a subscriber, hey, we want to make emotes that you want to use. So if you've got any ideas, please let me know. I really want to make sure that what we have is what people want to see and what people want to use in chat. So that 2-for-1 special coming up with both that new
Buy one, get one.
that new one shot
It's a BOGO.
It's a BOGO.
Buy one, get one shot. We'll workshop
What's that?
it.
Wait.
Oh no.
No.
All right, and with that, now with violence canonically stored on our channel for years to come,
Yep.
thank you all for joining us for tonight's Footnotes. I've been Matthew, this has been Clella and Victoria. Hey, we'll see you this Friday. Good night, everybody.
Night, y'all.
See you Friday.
Let me get, I said that, I didn't pull up the button. We're all talking. Oh, thank you so much.
Yes,
Rada,
yes,
rhubarb,
yes,
rhubarb,
yes.
watermelon.
Peaches.
Oh.